I mean, obviously, in terms of fundamentals, before we talk about the technicals, let me share the screen. I wanted to talk a bit about Tesla as a business before we dive into the numbers. Um, so this I didn't know this. This is from the last transcript from the earnings call last week, where or this week actually, where Elon Musk talks about how no EV company is profitable at all. So you think about Rivian, you think about BYD, you think about all these companies that are pure EV plays. None of them are profitable. Now, this has a lot to do with how they operate. For example, this is in very stark contrast to companies like Ford, Volkswagen, who obviously have their own EV products, but that's not a pure EV play. So for them, let's suppose the EVs are not doing good, they can just ramp up production on, let's say, F-150, for example, and they for sure know that an F-150 is going to get them the profits if their EV offerings do not, which is very different to a complete pure EV play, because if their EVs don't work, they don't work. So for a pure EV company to actually do good, the R&D, the logistics need to be at a very impressive level for it to even make sense. With which, I mean, that being said, Tesla is at that level. Um, and just looking at the last quarter numbers, I mean, I won't really go into the numbers as such. The numbers are positive. They did miss the EPS by a small margin, but all the other numbers are really impressive, especially one that I want to talk about, which is the free cash flow. I mean, they spent around $3.5 billion this quarter on capex, which was only 2.4 last quarter. Out of this 3.5 billion, around 700 million is funded by the government, but the remaining is all just pure Tesla. And even after spending so much, the free cash flow rose from 1.34 billion to 2.74 billion, which means the company is doing so well that even though they've spent almost 3.5 billion, is still able to generate free cash flows. And as a margin number, it's almost 10% of sales, which is really nice. Um, Now, just moving back to the deck, um, there are two things actually that actually is working for Tesla. The first is obviously the brand recognition. Wherever you go now, Tesla, when you see a Tesla, you have an opinion about it. It might be good, it might be bad, but you still cannot ignore that Tesla is one of the biggest, in my opinion, pure EV plays in the world. And secondly, the thing that's working for them is they're able to reduce the cost of goods sold every quarter since inception, barring a few quarters. I think in 2019 or 2020, they've been able to reduce the cost of goods sold. So if you see this, they've actually come out with a number this quarter. So they've brought it down to their lowest level ever at $35,000 for each vehicle. Now, this number was somewhere around 42 or 43 in 2020. At the scale that they operate, getting it down to 35 kind of gives them a boost in the earnings numbers. But the one main play that I'm really, really interested about, and we did touch upon it just lightly in the last recording, but that's the energy generation and storage capabilities. It's this portion over here. Crazy numbers. Let me just zoom in on the chart here. So, energy and other services, it's basically their superchargers, their power walls, and their I think it's called mega packs. Yeah. So, I'll start off with the mega pack. So, basically, mega pack is like a electricity generating um, a unit. It's pretty big. It's an industrial version of an inverter at your home. So basically it can charge um, around 4,000 homes for an hour. That's the capacity it holds electricity at. So this is the industrial version. They've got a more toned down version of it for the houses. So that's the power wall. It's this thing over at the end here. It's hooked up to your solar panels, and this basically can run your entire house. It can obviously charge your EV, more than capable of doing it, but it can charge the entire house. It can, in terms of power outages or if you suffer like electricity cuts, this is the perfect solution. One big thing about it is you can now also sell electricity. So because it's hooked onto the grid, once you store the electricity on your super ball, you can actually sell it to the grid or to your neighbor. For example, if he's got, um, you know, the power wall, you can sell it to him. These are some of the very big plays on energy storage and services, apart from obviously the superchargers that they have. So here you see the superchargers. And so this is energy storage deployment. So this combines the superchargers, the power walls, and the mega packs. You see how they've been constantly growing this. The gross margin on the energy and services this quarter is 30.5%. That's a crazy number. You see, all these years they were like loss making on this business, but around 2022 is when they started to really ramp up, and it's just been on the rise ever since. So, I mean, from a fundamental standpoint, obviously, I feel that there is a lot of room for growth even now. This was very evident in the 1010 event. The V Robot, I'm not sure what it was called, but the event was, from a company standpoint, really successful. It did get a lot of bad reviews just because of how much it promised. And Elon Musk is like big on promises, low on delivery kind of a guy. At least some people, for some people. Now, some of the products that they came out with in the October event was the Cybercab. Basically, it is a Tesla car, but with no handle, like no steering, nothing, just a screen. It is completely autonomous driven, full self driving. Um, it's pretty. It's a two-seater. It's got pretty big trunk storage. Then there's the Robo Van. It's basically a bus, can seat up to 20 people. And then why I was saying that their energy services is going to kind of be the main player. They've got robo taxi charging, which is wireless charging for a car, which is crazy. You can just park the car in front of the charger, kind of charges up. I don't have the exact details on how many hours, but it is still a pretty decent offering. And then they've got Optimus, which is their own um, robot. Again, not their main offering, but I would still say that the cyber cab and the robo taxis pretty great offerings. Now, what they had said about these cars, and this is the last point I want to make on the fundamentals. Um, they say that the plan for the new vehicles, including more affordable models, not just the models that we just explained, they remain on track for start of production in the first half of 2025. This is a huge promise to shareholders. I'm not sure how well they would stick to it, but they remain on track for start of production in the first half of 2025. That's just a couple of months away. And more importantly, these vehicles will utilize aspects of the next generation platforms while being able to be produced on the same manufacturing lines as our current vehicle lineup. So they don't have any further capex to do. They don't have a lot of expenses setting up new factories for this, which is very interesting. From the fundamental point of view, I feel like the company is doing solid. If you just run the numbers on a DCF, maybe not that great, but because Tesla's fueled by innovation, fueled by a lot of in-trend topics, I feel like they're going to do well in the long run, in the short run for sure. And in the short run, I feel like doing a technical analysis would be a good idea. I'll kind of hand it over to Moise for now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. So looking at the technical side, interesting price action this week with Tesla, to say the least. I'm going to just share my chart here. So looking at the chart here, I really want to zoom out a little bit and start with the monthly. This is the monthly chart. There's a lot of overlap here, but the key factors that I'm really looking at include how it's behaving based on levels of support that it's established. So the 100 level was very strong. It bounced from this level, pulled back, and made a higher low, approximately around the 138 to 140 level. But now, if we're looking at this month specifically, there's just a lot of bullish price action that we can see here. My main concern right now with this monthly chart is this overlap here. So it will be really interesting to see if you're planning to trade or invest in Tesla for the short term, try to get a better price. I think right now it's a decent price. Of course, if it pulls back to 230, you can get a better discount, I would say, closer to this 20 moving average and the 50 moving average. If we move into the weekly, again, we're seeing a lot of overlap, but overall, Tesla's done a great part in holding the lower levels and reestablishing strength, which showcases that buyers are stepping up. This is the weekly candle right here.
Wow.
I'm also looking at the 200 moving average because that's what the institution is looking at, and we've reclaimed this level. Some levels I would want to see break include 300, as well as approximately 385, but we have some time to get there. Having said that, if we look at the daily itself, just absolutely amazing what Tesla did in the past, I'd say, week and a half. It gapped down after the event, which we notified, which James, you mentioned. And it was having a tough time holding its level. So it got below the 20 moving average and the 50 moving average here. And so during this week, I was fairly bearish, but it wasn't making its way down, and possibly into the 2030 finally decided to go and test this 210 level. But immediately after the earnings here, just take a look at that candle right there. It's a daily. The target for that day specifically was around this pivot high, around 265. And right after opening up here at 255, it's now closed towards the end of this week. It's approximately Sunday right now, October 27th, 2024. And it's reached this pivot high here, 271. I mean, I would probably wait to see if you can get a better price entry. But if you're looking to just invest for the long term, there's a lot of room here going into 300. So immediately you can make about $30 per share. But yeah, the price action is just quite volatile. But for the long term, definitely seeing Tesla setting up this flag breakout, right? If we were to imagine a trend line here, there's a lot of consolidation in this level between 240 and 270, and it looks like it wants to make a move higher. Of course, have your risk in mind, have your areas where you're looking to watch the price action very closely. If it reaches down to 132, depending on how much you decide to invest or trade, I mean, it's important to keep your downside in mind and as a priority. But overall, I mean, if we consider this as a risk reward, you're looking at 1 to 2 or a 2 to 1 risk reward. With the highs here around 440, you can set a stop loss just under 200, maybe even 185. But it all depends on your risk tolerance. But overall, Tesla, just a great stock, as we can see from the fundamental side, and on the technical side, it aligns as well. The institution, buyers, retail, they're looking at this long.
There are a lot of Teslas in Europe.
Not as many, but I'm starting to notice more.
Yeah, because I know they have a factory in Berlin, if I'm not wrong. That was their first factory in Europe. That's the only factory outside of the US and China. So I guess they're betting big on the European markets now.
Yes. I know there's a lot of Chinese vehicles here, the Swedish vehicles.
The BYD?
BYD, yeah. There's another one called Airways or something like that. But some interesting vehicles, great competitors to keep Tesla on its feet. But I'm starting to see more Model 3s, the newer ones as well. People seem to really like the redesign, uplift. Not as many Model Ys as I would see in North America.
Yeah, they're big on the Model Ys. I guess um, they will start rolling out the Cybertruck in other geographies. What was very interesting to me this quarter was right after launch, right? Cybertruck, even with all these negative publicity that it did receive, starting off from the event where it was actually announced, right? Um, it's become the third most popular EV vehicle in North America. And the first two are again Teslas. So that just shows you the kind of level innovation and level of efficiency that they're at. Even with all the bad publicity, it people can't ignore it, right? It's just there.
I agree. I agree. I think they just know how to make a great product. Overall, they're a software company, so they do have the best operating system. Um,
Yeah, I was
how you
so
can
amazed.
update and upgrade it very
Yeah, I was.
quickly. Yeah.
It was the energy kind of storage solutions that I was like really impressed with. It's not. It's not something that I would have associated Tesla to kind of get into, but it kind of makes sense now that they have their own superchargers. It's just infrastructure that you could build upon. Um, and just imagine having a power wall um, in every house, right? It's just a grid that you can hook up to. It's just amazing. The level of technology that they're at. As a company, I really like what they're doing. There are a few kind of um, risks in numbers that kind of did bother me. So when they report like margin numbers, we kind of tend to forget that they laid off around 15,000 employees this past quarter. So the numbers they kind of get a boost just because of that layoff. Um, so these might be kind of inflated numbers, um, but I'm really confident they'll do well in the short run. That's what my take is.
Yeah. And aside from the residential side, there's also this huge industry, with data centers.
Yes.
Um, Many regions across the world experiencing um, power resource
Yeah.
demands and needs. You can't fully rely on um, solar or wind. It has a
Hmm.
certain peak time, and there's also demand that's required for that. And I think that going into the residential side is very smart because everyone is looking for ways to save on their electricity. Um,
Oh yeah.
and at the same time, if it's a solution that works with their automobile purchase, they have already
Exactly.
built trust and investment into the company itself.
And it's just a single piece of infrastructure for the entire thing. So you don't now have to kind of you know buy a Tesla charger separately, because now you could have a super wall and then have it take care of your EV needs, and your house needs, like the house electricity. So that's just I don't know how it plays into these government public funded utility sector, but yeah, it's a very interesting space. Really like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
So are we bullish or bearish on Tesla?
um, on the short term, I'm extremely bullish. Um, the long term, I would wait, just because this happened the same way with Cybertrucks, where they announce a lot of good things and then they either underdeliver or um, it just takes too long to deliver. So I remember, I think Cybertruck was supposed to launch 2022, and it launched 2023 or 20 late 2023 or early 2024. So it takes a long time, and the market kind of can be unforgiving on these kind of plays. Also because I'm not sure if Tesla needs it right now, but there seems to be a problem with succession planning there, where you don't see a lot of um, you know executives speak out other than Elon, which to me as a guy who cares about fundamentals, a guy who cares about management, I want to see more people involved. I want to see more people on the mm, you know on those conference calls, on those meetings. there needs to be succession planning, which I think is kind of missing in case of Tesla. But short term, extremely bullish. Um, Amazing company. Long term, I might hold. What's your take? Technical.
Yeah. Technical side, definitely bullish. In the short term, though, be prepared for some fluctuations in price. So I would use the moving averages, specifically the 20 on the daily chart. And if it reaches the 200 for any reason, there's some pullbacks, that's a good place to buy as well. So keeping in mind that you don't have to chase any moves, it's better to get a better price entry. And you can always add if you're looking to, size into your position rather than go in full size and end up experiencing a pullback and start experiencing a little bit of buyer's remorse for the short term. So in the short term, be prepared for some volatility, which is very common with a stock like Tesla. The long term, if you're prepared to hold it 1 year, 3 years, 10 years plus, you can be more better equipped to handle the fluctuations then. But of course, I'm a big proponent of ensuring you get a discount on the price. So wait for a pullback. Right now, it's very bullish for the past few days. Wait for it to cool down. If you miss the move, if it keeps going up, it's okay. There's no reason to have fear of missing out. There'll be a chance to re-enter. Yeah.
Perfect. That's good.
We really appreciate you watching and tuning into Epic Markets. This is Babar Trades World.
And this is James Invest.
We really hope you gained value from this video. And if you did, make sure you subscribe.